the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hungered in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest.
Uh-oh.
Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Let's do it. Let's get away. Let's go outside, cast a line, and reel in good times with our family and friends. Get a little peace, quiet, and relaxation. And make some memories that will last a lifetime. Let's do it. Let's Fish Nebraska. Start planning your fishing trip today at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Live from Copple Chevrolet GMC Studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Welcome to The Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weekends here. I am Harrison Arens here with DP. We got an open hour here, so we're going to preview a little bit of NFL. So there's plenty to talk about. A lot of big games today. I know there's one I'm definitely keeping my eye on. That's going to be the Miami Dolphins. I'm really curious to see how those guys do. Obviously, they just beat the Baltimore Ravens, who I think you can look at the Dolphins and the Ravens as both good teams right now. But I think it's safe to say that the Bills are kind of above themselves. They're the only team right now that's really, in my opinion, sitting above everyone else. You can maybe argue the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Bills have been dominant. And this is going to be a huge test for the Dolphins. So we'll kind of talk about that, as well as a bunch of other games today. We can even go into Steelers-Browns on Thursday, what we thought about that one. But if you guys want to join in here at all, like I said, it's going to be NFL for the full hour. Hit up the Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685. And we'll even take some calls if you want to call in at the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Same number, 402-464-5685. But DP, I don't know. You got any games this weekend or this Sunday or even Monday that you're really looking forward to watching?
Well, being that I hang out with Jake Sorensen and Jay Foreman,
it's gonna be a good one.
That game is kind of the game of all games. Also, the fact that I'm in the transfer portal as far as the fan base goes, so I kind of get I kind of get to move around. But yeah, Buffalo Miami is a big one.
I'll be curious to see what Tua does with that defense, because that Bills defense is legit. In last game he got Tyreek Hill 190 yards, Waddle 174, Tua threw for 6 touchdowns. This Bills defense though is going to be a real test. See if he can still put up numbers even half as good as that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that anybody's figured out Tyreek.
No.
Not even Tua.
He realized it last week.
I don't think he knows what's in play, right? That what type of receiver he has, how he's going to use him, what the capabilities are. He's learning a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the curiosity. Miami seems to feel like when Buffalo comes down to Miami, they seem to feel like they have some advantage. The old me would have been super geeked about this weekend because it's Philly and Washington. That's usually a barn burner. That's a brawl. Brady versus Aaron Rodgers is always interesting, always good. LA versus Arizona, kind of setting the template for how that division is going to play out, right? Mm-hmm. To see them early. We don't know how to really measure San Francisco and Denver.
Yeah,
but
it feels weird.
Yeah.
I don't, what happened to Trey Lance is super sad, because think about the last time that guy's played legit competitive football. You remember he got hurt and then he had the COVID year, and then he's pretty much in the NFL and he's been in work in progress and practice. He has yet to have real competitive play since, even early in college.
Well, it was weird because to hear players, and I have a couple of buddies who are coaches within the team, and they talk about that he has intangibles. He has all of the intangibles, things that are hard to measure, but things that show up whenever competition happens, right? That they're super proud of the way he competes. But then back comes Jimmy G, and the surprise that for a guy who's taken his team to Super Bowl and he's been in that space, how, it's kind of the Flacco-ism, of disrespect. But now it's back on Jimmy G and it's his team. Now, what type of team does that make the 49ers? They're less explosive, but they're more consistent.
Yeah.
Like that's really the measuring stick.
When he came in for that Seahawks game, it's maybe if Trey Lance continues to play that game out. I don't want to say that he's a bad quarterback, that Jimmy G's better, because we haven't seen the time for Trey Lance to even grow into what his ceiling is. But as it stands right now, if you were to compare him, even if he was healthy, you feel better with Jimmy G back there. Because when he came into that Seahawks game, they were playing well almost immediately as soon as they plugged him in.
Here's the weird thing, but the players on the offense had rallied around Trey Lance. Like, there's a reason why your starting skill position players wanted to play for Trey Lance.
He must have had something.
Like there's a reason. Like day by day, you watch a guy at practice, his reads, his ability to make plays that, quite frankly, weren't being made, make throws that weren't being made, get them out of such sticky situations. Trey Lance is better when chaos happens.
Yeah.
But Jimmy G is consistent. He's consistent in what he knows. Now, every now and then, Jimmy G is going to Jimmy G. He's going to make a throw where you scratch your head and you fist palm yourself, right?
Yeah.
That being said, that's still good enough for a 49er team with talent in those other positions to have the ability to play late in the season. Like, he finds a way. Now, he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Tom Brady. And that's part of the problem. That's literally the problem. That in any other situation other than a 49 team that constantly runs into Green Bay and Tampa, like
it doesn't bode well,
right? It's like, oh, well, you're cool, like you're really good, but you're not Brady. Well, who is? Oh, you're not Aaron Rodgers. Well, who is? Think about it from that perspective. That if he was in the NFC East, he might be the best quarterback in the NFC East.
There'd be a real chance for it,
right? Like
he's just in a loaded.
Right? Are you
era.
really like? We love Dak, but Dak has done less in the postseason than Jimmy G has.
Yeah, I'm out on the Dak.
Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz. Are we real? Daniel Jones. Are we really just lining up folks in front of?
Hurts is the only guy there. That maybe
well, but not even now. Yeah. Remember, they wanted to get rid of Jalen Hurts. They wanted to chase him out of Philly last year, right? And think about it. That your coach pulled you out of a game that you still could have won, that could have changed your whole location and elevation. So Jimmy G does a thing. And again, you look at that division, you go, okay, who in the division is he absolutely worse than? Like, what quarterback in the West do you go, Like, it's not Jameis.
No, definitely not Jameis. He kind of went back to his old ways.
Right? Like, well, we don't know. Jameis is a 30-30 guy, right? So we know, he's going to give you a wow moment. He's going to give you a wow moment. Like, you're going to get both of them in that space. So, yeah, let Jimmy G be spectacular. Like, that's what today is for me. For a lot of the games that are in play, this is a weird statement week for week 3. Think about it. I don't think anybody really expected the Giants to be a prohibitive favorite against the Cowboys in week 3, even in New York City.
I thought this was going to be a disastrous start for them. Just a disaster. It still could go south very fast. Their offense with Danny Dimes still looks spotty at times. You wonder how they get done. They got Saquon Barkley. It looks pretty good this year. But to say that they're looking better than Cowboys right now, you would never see it coming.
Yeah, like to not know. Like, we don't know. We don't know. And think about this. If Dallas wins tonight with Cooper Rush, the entire NFC is flipped on its head. Like, what is happening? What goes on that Cooper Rush goes in and leads this team to a win? Another game that low key I'm really interested in, and I find it that it's must win for the Raiders and the Titans.
Okay, yeah,
it's must win in week 3.
Yeah, well, because if you're the Raiders, you just had Arizona Cardinals on the ropes, and not only could you fail to get a stop on defense, you also failed to stop two-point conversions, one of which Kyler Murray, just did phenomenal things, running for around 500, 600 yards in one play, just back and forth for a solid 14
I love
seconds.
him way more than everybody else.
Kyler Murray?
Yeah.
He's insane. What he does is just, it was not there before. He is totally new on his ability.
He's a wrecking ball.
It's insane. I think their game plan is just let him do him sometimes. I'm not even kidding.
He ruins what they want to do, but then cleans it up in the most magnificent way. It's like, that was a horrible read, but man, I love how you cleaned it up. Like, spectacular. Never mind.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Did you see that that 2-point conversion? The one they really needed, where he was running around in the backfield for 14 seconds.
Loved it.
That's what he does. That play was so broken at the start. No one was open. And you can just see him the whole time motioning his receivers to open spots until one hits because he's just that good on his feet.
I'm just going to run around for a while. It looked, I'm old enough to remember Fran Tarkenton. And Fran was the first of the real scramble around quarterbacks, guys that wanted to throw, but they used their feet to create time in pass pro rather than to gain yardage. Now he would tuck it and get forward if needed. But Fran loved to throw the dang football. So he would just scramble around and he would run in 14 different directions. At some point they should put together the best scrambling quarterbacks of all time.
Oh, that'd be a good
guys who, and I don't mean running quarterback. There's a difference between running quarterbacks and scrambling quarterbacks. Scrambling quarterbacks ultimately still want to throw the ball.
So Lamar Jackson, he wouldn't be a scrambling
He'd be a running quarterback.
Yeah.
He'd be a running quarterback.
So he's looking to get yards because he can.
Yeah, he can put his foot in the ground and get vertical. Guys, actually, Aaron Rodgers is a pretty amazing scrambling quarterback.
You know, yeah, he really is.
Underrated in his skill set. Running quarterbacks, go back. There's a guy, Bobby Douglas, who played for the Chicago Bears back in the day. Bobby Douglas was tall, strong, 212 pounds, left-hander, always had long blonde hair hanging out of the back of his Bears helmet. Terrible passer. I think his career, without looking at it, his career passing percentage is probably 46%.
All right, let's see here. Let's find his career
passing percentage is in the 40s for sure.
43%.
43, yeah. Like he was a terrible pass. Had a rocket arm. He had a rocket arm, but he was big enough. As a matter of fact, most of the rushing records for quarterbacks before this new era was Bobby Douglas for the Bears. Like he would just go and he'd just take on people, and he was monsters of Midway. He was that kind of that dude. Jim McMahon, pretty good scrambler. Liked to throw the ball. Warren Moon, pretty good scrambler. Joe Theisman was actually a really good scrambler.
Really?
Joe Theisman was a guy who came in. He went to Canada. He was drafted by the Dolphins when they were, and then his first year with the Dolphins, he decided to go to Canada because he was playing behind Bob Greasy, who he couldn't beat out, and Earl Morrall. Well, they didn't sign Earl Morrall. They had another quarterback. Theisman went to Canada. They signed Morrall. Greasy gets them off to like a 7-0 start, pulls his Achilles. They go and get Earl, because they didn't have Theisman, they go and get Earl Morrall. Morrall leads them to the perfect season. Earl Morrall looked like if your grandfather just was hanging out and they gave him a uniform. That's where Earl Morrall looked 60 when he was 30. It was
that's incredible.
Like he just, the guys that just look old.
Yeah.
But yeah, Theisman came back. Washington got his rights. The only way he could get on the field was as a punt returner.
Seriously?
So Joe Theisman's first games in the NFL was as a punt returner. So he was super athletic. Randall Cunningham was maybe the best because but Randall Cunningham could also run. Like he could just run.
Someone says Steve Young too from the text line.
Steve Young was absolutely a scrambling quarterback, but he was a pretty good runner too. As a matter of fact, his transition was pretty good. Actually, my favorite Young play was him on a scramble where he takes off, and I think he goes 50, stumbles, and ends up getting a touchdown.
What year is that?
Man, I want to say that was in 95. Okay. 95, where he just drops back, scrambles, gets upfield, breaks a tackle, trips, stumbles again, almost falls, puts his hand in the dirt to propel himself, scores the touchdown. But actually, people forget, Steve Young didn't start with the Niners. Steve Young started with the Tampa Bay Bucks, and they were terrible.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a bad era.
They were terrible. He left the Bucks, went to the USFL, played for the LA Bandits, the Los Angeles Bandits. and then came back to the 49ers to back up Joe Montana and ultimately win the job.
Yeah, Steve Young, he was 64 completion percentage rating. He played for 1985 all the way up until 1999. Yeah, and
Yeah,
he did 2
85
years at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, 85. He had 2 years at Tampa, which is maybe one of my favorite collector's jerseys. Is the white Tampa creamsicle Steve Young.
That'd be a sick jersey to have.
Oh, but it's the white. You got to get the white with the creamsicle trim and not the the creamsicle with the white trim. You got to get the white one with a red number, like it's like a burnt orange, burnt red number. Amazing.
That's got to be a rare piece out there. Actually,
It's out there. It's out there. I actually have one.
Really?
I actually have one. I also have one of his Bandits jersey. I have quite a few USFL jerseys.
That's actually kind of cool. USFL was a bigger deal for a while.
Jim Kelly, Houston Wranglers.
Nice.
Oh, Jim Kelly before he went to the Bills. Oh,
he was the man.
I forget what they call the. They had a name for the offense, like the H gun or something crazy. But Ricky Sanders, who played for the Redskins in Super Bowl, was one of the receivers. Him, Clanch Verdane, and they had 3 tiny little receivers that Jim Kelly just threw for like 8 million yards in the USFL. They had some quarterbacks back in the day. I mean, Vinny Testaverde, Sam Mills, of course, started in that league. Herschel Walker was with the Generals in that league. Doug Williams. Williams was in that league for Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Outlaws.
That's right. They did have a team.
The Oklahoma Outlaws. So, yeah, it was – that's why I love those leagues. That's why I'm excited this year because we'll have 2 off leagues, 2 non-NFL. We'll have an XFL and a USFL this year.
Why do you think they can never stick around long enough?
Greedy owners.
You think it's just them skimming too much off the top
greedy
and then
owners.
there's not enough left to keep it going?
Well,
so I feel like people watch.
Man, okay, so this goes in deep water. This takes you in deep water for the owners. There's one particular owner who behind the scenes screwed the USFL in such a monumental way. And I hate talking about it because he is a lightning rod.
Yeah.
He also happened to be a former president of the United States. But what he did in that space was terrible. Terrible.
Just ruined it, huh?
Oh, it was terrible. But the Philadelphia Stars, I remember they had Penn State's Chuck Fusina.
It was K-Gun real quick.
K-Gun, outstanding. That's what I say. You know the text line. I have you covered. But there were such good quarterback. Reggie Collier, Chuck Fusina, down in Birmingham. Washington had 2 quarterbacks to begin with, but Washington Federals had Craig James, who was the other running back to Eric Dickerson at SMU. So the Pony Express.
Yeah.
It's Craig James and Eric Dickerson. Washington they went and got Craig James, who never became the version that they thought it was going to be. But what that league really did was highlight guys like Reggie White, getting them in the league. Sam Mills, who's a Hall of Famer in the league. There are a ton of Hall of Fame players. Kelvin Bryant is not a Hall of Famer, but he's in that league of elite guys. And then some great coaches.
So it's kind of like the CBA was for basketball.
It was really
where you got Dr. J and you start getting all these phenomenal players.
Oh my goodness,
in these other leagues.
You get me on ABA talk, and I can go for
ABA
days.
talk. That'd be a good one. Because they did a lot to honestly put the NBA where it's at today. ABA,
it saved the NBA.
Oh, the 3-point line
saved the NBA. The style of play, the coolness, the chic factor, the way folks were dressing, the way guys were playing. Slam dunk contest is an ABA concept. As a matter of fact, imagine the very first ABA slam dunk with Dr. J, Artis Gilmore, David Thompson, Donnell Hillman, George Gervin. Like,
I'm telling you, I'd be an ABA fan, I think, if I was young enough and I was watching the NBA.
It was online. It was online. You can go and see the first slam dunk contest, and it doesn't look anything like today's version of it. because they didn't know what it was. They're like, "What do we do? Dunk?
Yeah.
Okay, cool." So they had 7-footers in the dunk contest, and it was just weird. And it was in Denver. As a matter of fact, the guy who called it was Bob Costas.
Seriously?
Bob Costas, who was an intern
This would be a good
for
deep
the St. Louis ABA team, St. Louis Spirit.
Okay.
Okay, so fast forward to 2002, there's another version of the American Basketball Association. I was the official voice of the ABA.
No kidding?
Yeah, the official voice. I broadcasted. I did their entire postseason tournament. I did
That's
pretty
sick.
It was, and I did hosted a weekly show. It's called ABA Talk, and did it for like 3 years, and then the same thing happened for the CBA. But for the ABA, so I grew up in Virginia, so we cheated. We had the Virginia Squires, who had at some point Dr. J, George Gervin, Billy Cunningham, like it was Larry Keenan,
Not
like
just the NBA talent,
Billy Paltz,
but the
like
future of the NBA,
right?
on
Like
some
the
of those
entire
rosters.
future of it, and they played at different places. So one week they play in Richmond, the next week they play in Norfolk or Virginia Beach. Then they come up to but we also had the Washington Capitals, who only lasted a year, but its star player was Rick Barry. Larry Brown was the starting point guard on that. Like the coach Larry Brown was the starting point guard on the Caps basketball team.
Okay, let me ask you this then, because I don't know how true this is, but weren't they in a position where they were losing money and they were in a place where we almost need to get bought, but their plan was if we just keep taking talent, we'll force their hand to the point to where they will have to take us into the league.
So the NBA wasn't the NBA then.
No, but it was still bigger.
The NBA wasn't even on live TV unless local. Like you get one game of the week on a Sunday afternoon that was live. The rest of it was like tape delay.
But did they have enough money to bail out those leagues, or were those leagues totally fine? They did have the money.
Well, the NBA needed them because they weren't doing the attendance.
Absolutely.
They didn't have the TV contract. You didn't have it. And then the point with the time that Dr. J had left, he was in New Jersey.
Okay.
Playing for the Nets, New Jersey Nets. And this is the old Nets. And by the way, New Jersey Nets, go back to those old red, white, and blue uniforms. Like, go immediately.
Where they say Nats?
Yeah. Just go back to it immediately. But the style of play and having Dr. J beat Kentucky and Indiana, where George McGinnis and Louis Dampier and Dan Issel and like it was more fun basketball. It was playground basketball.
Up and down. I know the big difference was the pace was way different.
Super athletic. Free flowing, guys would go between the legs. It wasn't so imagine the Boston Celtics and the way they ran Red Auerbach's offense versus Dr. J and George Gervin, finger roll, spin move, reverse dunk, big, huge, deep afros.
They wouldn't know what the hell they're seeing,
right? Like, but that's what had to happen. And
Yeah.
the word was, well, the ABAs would never play. But when they crossed over, the ABA was a problem.
Yeah, they were better.
They had a problem. The ABA had sold itself as a circus, a basketball circus. And through all the other stuff that's in play, then you needed entertainment. So that's why the ABA was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. They had go-go girls, dancers, and that sort of stuff.
Even the smallest details. Even the basketball was colorful.
Red, white, and blue was great for TV.
Uh-huh.
Three-point shooting, three-point line was an ABA.
They knew how to market way better than the NBA.
Right?
That's for sure.
So a whole full thing in place. And then through all of it, you just go, wow, the style of play. It was amazing. Like to see Julius Erving do his stuff, to see George Gervin, like the finger roll. They had some players, but the players who came over were guys like Connie Hawkins. And Hawk went to Phoenix, but before that, he was in the ABA. Marvin Barnes, guys like Ernie DiGregorio, spin move between the legs, no look passes.
It is crazy because Dr. J's staple, his signature is his reverse finish was always crazy. The way he'd able to get that around the basket, but even something simple as like that reverse layup, it like when he transitioned over and he was doing it at that level, it blew people's minds that he was able to get up, float to the other side of the rim, and hit that just amazing reverse layup. And even something as simple as a reverse layup wasn't seen at that level in the NBA yet.
Well, it was needed because you had, I mean, it allowed Earl Monroe to be the Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed Connie Hawkins to be the Hawk. It allowed George Gervin to be the Iceman. That stuff wasn't happening, and no slight to guys like JoJo White who played traditional game, but it was a different game for those guys. It just was more athletic. It was more graceful. It was more crowd appealing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you put that on TV in New York, LA, Detroit, people lined up for it. It's like, oh, what is this? Okay, this is what I want to pay for. This is what I want to do. So, yeah, the old leagues. I mean, bad money management.
Yeah.
But the TV rights changed everything. And every new sport or new version of a sport is managed by its ability to share its entertainment and content with the fan as easily as and consistently as possible. That's why streaming was so important. Audio streaming was important. I mean, that's how Mark Cuban became a billionaire. Is he owned the first streaming service?
That's seriously how he got his way up.
Yeah, Mark Cuban wasn't rich, but he started a streaming service for basketball.
Genius.
And that actually was the software that we used in 2002, 2003. Where we were first doing the internet broadcast for basketball. And so for the ABA, we did it. We were then hired by the CBA and then the G League to show them how to do it and transition into video streaming as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the G League, the D League into the G League. All of that was a natural part of this stuff. And I got to be a part of it. It was really cool.
I was going to say,
it was really cool. Like
you watched when basketball started becoming the thing. I don't think it'd ever be football, obviously, but there was an era where, I mean, Bill Russell, obviously he passed not too long ago, but you hear his stories. This guy was an 11-time NBA champion, went there 11 to 13 years, and those seats still weren't full. I mean, there was time, and not until really Larry Bird was there when the NBA started picking up and you start getting that fandom. But Bill Russell didn't even play like packed arenas.
He played in packed arenas, especially
probably not until later on, though.
In the East Coast. So if you're talking late 60s, early 70s, it was packed in Philly.
Okay.
It was packed in New York. It was packed in Boston.
Even early Bill Russell was still packed in there?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because it was played at such a high level. Northeast basketball, like that's the hub for basketball. It migrated, but the very first, when you look at the NBA original teams, they're all Northeastern teams.
Yep.
Right. And then it was when you started to go across the country. But baseball had the same problem. That's how the Giants leave New York and end up in San Francisco. The migration across, the Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers become the LA Dodgers. You've got to move across the country. But it started in the Northeast, like most things athletically in this country. It started in the Northeast. Philly, New York, Boston were the three hubs. Baltimore for a bit, DC as it kind of evolved. The Bullets, that's why the Bullets were in Baltimore for a bit before they went to DC.
Where was Chicago in this mix?
The Bulls didn't do really well because they weren't being successful. The Bulls weren't.
Just always seems like a talented city. But you got to get those guys in.
But you were trying to figure out. It's really weird. Style of play mattered. They had a guy, Nick Boerwinkle. They had the Van Arsdale brothers, Jerry Sloan as a point guard, but they had Norm Valier, Chet Love. They had guys that were good, but they couldn't get past the Knicks. The Knicks were great. The Knicks, I mean, think about it. As good as Boston was, Boston's run of having Russell, Heinsohn, go back to Cousy before that, where they dominated the game. Minneapolis was the outlier with George Mikan. But everybody else in that space was locked in the Northeast. Then here comes Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. Jerry Lucas had a bit of a run as a guy that was in that place. Dave Cowens, Willis Reed before them, Wes Unseld down. Like you had dudes, Artis Gilmore, like you had Dan Issel, you had dudes. Like when you had a 8-man league, you faced the 8 best centers in the entire world every night. Yeah. Like it wasn't like there's no. Oh,
and those centers were legit back then.
Legit. Too. When people say, "Well, you did it against Carson Wentz," that is an absolute lie. Look at the 8 centers or the 12 centers that were in the league at the time, and they were all dudes. Jerry Lucas was the worst center in the league, and he was a Hall of Famer.
That's always a gripe with me as the centers hearing that, because I mean, I'll just say it now. There's a lot of centers in that league that are a hell of a lot better on the block than their centers today.
There are very few true centers in the block. I mean, you got
Joel Embiid and Nikola Vucevic. I mean, those are the only two.
Embiid is a game changer in the space, and where would he be if he had to face Kareem, Wilt, Russell every night?
You keep him away, but as soon as the sky hook came, he's not stopping that one either.
Right, like it's a battle.
But like, it would be. But I could put him up there at least to compete. There's not a lot of guys like that though.
I don't. It would be system. It would be system and teammates, right? You got to remember that Wilt needed all the help in the world from the logo to get a chip.
Yeah,
like it wasn't easy. Milwaukee with young Kareem. But by the way, one of the top 5 point guards ever, Oscar Robertson, is running that team, and it's a big deal. So sports, through how it all plays out, there's always we lose some of the perspective from proximity. It's easy to sit and say, you know what, they're more athletic now, more athletic than Will. You really?
No, absolutely not.
Like, bro, no.
That was a freak of nature.
No, it wasn't. So, yeah, man, we went 33 minutes in the first segment. What are we doing?
You caught me on that old basketball, so I was like, how to let it go.
Oh, this is how we do it, man. Let's take a break.
Sunday morning. It's quiet, not in a weird, too quiet way. Calm, peaceful, tranquil. You pour yourself that cup of coffee. You slice yourself a hearty chunk of one of Beatrice Bakery's breakfast breads. Now, maybe you're an apple streusel guy. Nothing wrong with that. I can respect that. Personally, I'm a turtle nut man. Something about those pecans. But the real ones know, don't sleep on that date nut bread. Sweet, but not too sweet. Nutty, not overly. The perfect morning treat. Beatrice Bakery. Online at beatricebakery.com. Welcome to our world of yum.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
I grew up hearing that women are bad with money. But like many of you, I spent years paying bills, managing checking accounts, and taking care of my family. So turns out women are pretty good with money after all. And now I'm taking control of my financial future by saving for retirement. It's never too late to start, and there's a great website to help you. Check out WeSaySaveIt.org and jumpstart your retirement savings on your budget and your timeline. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college. learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weekends. I am Harrison Arens here with DP. We kind of left off talking about some of these older leagues. We got into a pretty long conversation. We're talking about the old ABA for basketball. And then over the break, DP was enlightening me about the WSFL. What'd you say that was?
Okay,
70s?
So the World Football League. It was actually called
WFL,
the World Football League, 1974. He was a part of the ABA and the World Hockey Association, which was a rival to the NHL.
Yeah.
So back then, in the 70s, mid-70s, a lot of the stuff would take place. And they went through and they picked their cities. And they wanted, certain cities to deal with this stuff. They battled. So some of the cities were battled because it had an NFL team in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to take Washington. Of course, there was a fight between that. So they came through Baltimore and did their whole thing. But you're talking about, I'm trying to look at the team. So imagine a team, the Toronto Northmen, right? The Toronto Northmen.
I'm looking up the names right now.
Right? Signed Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, and the best wide receiver at the time, Paul Warfield, to what was then the richest 3-player deal in history for at the time an astounding $3.5 million to start the 1975 season. Guaranteed personal services. Right? The trio would be paid even if the games weren't played.
Yeah, that's big money back then.
The Raiders lost Ken Stabler to Birmingham, the Birmingham Americans, and his one of his buddies and rivals, Darryl LaMonica, who, again, these are both the Raider quarterbacks of the age, signed to play for the Southern California Sun. John Wilbur left Washington to play for the Hawaiians.
I was just going to look at it. Was there a team in Hawaii? I'm looking at the teams right now, the Hawaiians.
Maybe one of the best uniforms ever.
I wonder if I can
ever. John Gilliam, Ted Qualick, these were all pro guys who bounced over through it. And, of course, then it didn't last. So, yeah, the WFL, which led to – and some great team names, by the way.
There's the Charlotte Hornets.
Oh, before basketball.
Yeah.
People don't know that.
Did basketball pick up on the Hornets?
Yes.
There's already a mascot.
Yeah.
It's kind of stapled in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like some of the guys that played in this league, right? L.C. Greenwood of the Steelers, Charlie Haraway of Washington, Ron Jesse of the Lions, George Myra, Jim Mitchell, Mike Montgomery, Kenny Stabler, Rayfield Wright of the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Warren McVay of the Chiefs, who played, 65 toss power trap, that era. Bill Bergey of the Bengals, who was all everything. Let's see, John Gillum, the wide receiver, who returned the first kick in NFL Monday Night Football history for the Saints, returned it for a touchdown. The opening play, the first play in Monday Night Football history, was a kick return for a touchdown. Ted Qualick, Calvin Hill, Grant Hill's dad, left the Cowboys and went over and played for the Hawaiians.
I think that'd be the best franchise to play for, probably.
Yeah, but the worst managed. It was terrible.
Really?
Because the cost of flying,
I was just gonna say,
flying to games in Hawaii. Like, if you don't have money, the last thing you want to do is fly from Birmingham to Hawaii with no money. Craig Morton, of course, who led the Broncos to a Super Bowl against the Cowboys. Man, some of these dudes. Of course, Zonka, kick. D.D. Lewis, who almost won an Super Bowl MVP with the Dolphins. John Frenchie Fuqua.
I don't know that one.
Okay, so Frenchie Fuqua was the intended receiver on the Immaculate Reception.
Okay.
He was the fullback to Franco Harris before they paired him with Rocky Blyer. John Frenchie Fuqua. Man, some of these others. This is pretty amazing. Curly Culp, one of the great names, high tops for the Chiefs. Daryl LaMonica as well. So there was just a ton of guys who went over. The Birmingham Americans. Then they changed that to the Birmingham Vulcans.
I was just gonna say, there's also did the Jacksonville go through a rebrand twice? Because you also have the Express and then you also have the Sharks.
Yeah, which is perfectly Jacksonville. It's perfectly the Memphis Southmen. There's certain cities that cast themselves as viable options that would then lean forward to USFL later, some 10 years later.
Mm-hmm. Then you have the Southern California Suns,
the Detroit Wheels, the Chicago Fire, which I thought it was a shame that name didn't last.
Yeah,
and didn't make it. Of course, they then became the Chicago Winds. The Portland Storm, fantastic, terrible uniforms, but then became the Portland Thunder as well. So they played you played in Anaheim Stadium where the Angels play, JFK in Philly before what it was, the Liberty Bowl, the Gator Bowl, the Astrodome, the Aloha Stadium, then also Honolulu Stadium, the Alamo Stadium in San Antonio, Citrus Bowl, Soldier Field, and Legion Field. So they played in some good houses.
That's absolutely incredible. I wonder how many of these mascots kind of got carried over to different cities, because you also have the Florida Blazers, not in Florida, but you have a lot of these team mascots and names are what you see in these pro leagues now, NBA or NFL.
Yeah, because a lot of times in the transition, the owner, the primary owner became a secondary owner in the next version of it.
That makes sense.
And so there was some community recognition to it. The original Houston Texans, absolutely. He says the owner of the Toronto Northmen, Memphis Southern also owned the Tampa Bay Bandits of the USFL. So some of them transitioned over. A lot of it moved in that direction, but it was pretty amazing to watch. It's cool. That's why I'm looking forward to this spring, because The Rock, as he brings back XFL in a more modified traditional version, it'll still have some different rules. But think about it as just another opportunity. I guarantee you, I can tell you that there's 5 or 6 former Husker players who didn't make the NFL who are going to make their bid in one of those 2 leagues this spring. And it's a chance to get great tape, great resume building, and then get reps just to come back and get paid. But it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club or space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? No, forget that. How about a margarita club? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge and join the best club in town. 10 flavors of margaritas like Maui Wowie, burnt pineapple, and mango tango. Try all 10 of them and receive your own souvenir margarita glass. Make it your new Monday night tradition. $4 margaritas and $4 taco baskets. Grab the crew and head on over Monday nights or any night. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, Good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
I grew up hearing that women are bad with money. But like many of you, I spent years paying bills, managing checking accounts, and taking care of my family. So turns out women are pretty good with money after all. And now I'm taking control of my financial future by saving for retirement. It's never too late to start, and there's a great website to help you. Check out WeSaySaveIt.org and jumpstart your retirement savings on your budget and your timeline. That's WeSaySaveIt.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the Ticket weekends. I am Harrison Arens here with DP. We've kind of been going back in time here this hour. And I'm loving it.
We've totally gone off script.
Yeah, we preseasoned a few NFL games, but to be honest, I think we got the main ones down there. Obviously, Dolphins, Bills. That's kind of the one everyone's eyes are going to be on. But no, this trip down time it's good because you forget how many good players there were that came from those startup leagues. Because there were times where it wasn't just the NFL, it wasn't just the NBA. These were leagues all coming up at the same time, competing who's going to be top dog.
They had so many, and here's the other thing. So each league leads to the next league or next version of said league. And so this year you'll have the XFL, and then you'll have the USFL, right? So you're going to have both leagues, and then you'll have the NFL, and you still have CFL, Canadian football. But if you go back to 1980, I want to say 82. I want to say 82 is when I think they launched. And they go through, and it's got a lot of the same type owner situations where you have guys who were trying to get into the NFL ownership and couldn't. So the new league comes out, and so of course, in they go, right? And it didn't always lead to the best decisions because there are people who said they had money who didn't have money, and who didn't,
some checks weren't getting wrote
out.
Yeah,
there were some things that were in place. So there's a ton of the stuff that was going on. But think about it this way: that they said, "Screw it, we're really not only are we going to go after their veterans, we're going to go after the people in the draft." Like we're going to go after.
Wait, hold on. They were snatching people out of the draft.
They snatched Herschel Walker out of Georgia because Herschel was
That's
a junior.
amazing.
He was a junior.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to come back. I'm going to play for Georgia as a Heisman because he won the Heisman as a junior.
He had it set to go first round top.
Well, but here's the thing. Like he could have, it would have happened for him. Right? So who comes along? The New Jersey Generals. And the Generals say, we're going to draft you. And they gave him a bonus, a signing bonus. Herschel took the bonus. So when he tried to back out to go back to Georgia, they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him. But imagine also on that team in the same backfield, Doug Flutie was the starting quarterback for that team. So you go, wow, okay. Mike Rozier.
Okay. Yep. Big name.
Pittsburgh Maulers. People think Houston Oilers.
He was on the Pittsburgh Maulers.
Pittsburgh Maulers. Reggie White, Gary Zimmerman, Jim Kelly, Steve Young were all folks who were either at Memphis, LA, Houston Gamblers, LA Express. So through that, Chuck Fusina, Cliff Stout were all guys who went to the league. Brian Sipe, Joe Cribbs. They went through. Like it was pretty cool to see. It's like, oh man, dude left college and got paid. Like he got paid. And Herschel made a lot of money.
I mean, I suppose you just have to do that to compete. Yeah, I mean, you put the money down forward. You can start.
Took the advance and off you go. I was in DC at the time, and we had the Washington Federals.
Okay.
We had the blandest uniforms in the history of mankind.
Sorry, Federal. What year is Federals? Because with Washington,
83.
Okay, there's so many name changes in Washington.
83. And imagine that you're trying to do this at the same time that the Redskins are going to the Super Bowl. And they were the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Like they were the worst. No, they were tied for the worst with the Arizona Wranglers.
Same thing.
Arizona Wranglers.
Count yourself
4-14. They brought down a coach from Canada. It was awful. Like he was a really good CFO coach.
Some says Bobby Herbert as well.
Oh, Bobby Hebert. Yeah, Johnny Walton.
I said Herbert.
Yeah, Hebert. It was a ton of folks. Like George Allen, the legendary Redskins and Rams coach, was in with the Chicago Bandits, maybe.
Because Chicago. Okay, so they went.
They were something else.
Yeah, they went Fire, Winds.
Yeah.
Bandits.
Oh, this is spectacular. Like you can go through it. The Memphis Showboats, Oklahoma Outlaws, which is where Doug Williams quarterback, the Jacksonville Bulls, which is where Gary Clark of the Posse played before he went to the Washington. He made his bones for the Jacksonville Bulls. Houston Gamblers, where Ricky Sanders was, the San Antonio Gunslingers. It was Chicago Blitz. That's what it was. Yep. Chicago Blitz.
Good call, Fred.
Yeah, right. Like
he's on it. This would be a good. I hope my dad's listening to this hour. He'd be loving it.
But yeah, it was. This was fun. This is why I think, because you have got I think that you're going to get some guys like Terrell Owens and Chad Ochocinco come back and play. Yeah. Like if you saw Terrell Owens run a 40 about a month ago, 2 months ago,
you'd feel pretty good about it.
He ran a 4.540 at age 40.
He ran a 4.5?
He ran a 4.5, bro. He ran a 4.5. So I'm excited about what the leagues can be, how it plays out. But yeah, it's all good stuff around the way, man. It's all good stuff. Don't go anywhere. The Catcher's Corner. It's the debut.
Just saw them when they're in.
Yeah, the Catcher's Corner. we get to talk about their scrimmage, the exhibition the other night.
Hell yeah.
They put on a hitting display. Oh, we're excited about it. We're adding them to the Sunday lineup. Don't go anywhere. 93.7 The Ticket weekends.